Hello and welcome. Welcome back. In this video, I will demonstrate that commonly cited futurist proof text for a distant future return of Jesus can be fully understood and fulfilled within a first century context, especially in light of Jesus' own statements regarding, quote, this generation. This is a bold and compelling argument rooted in a consistent hermeneutic. The debate surrounding the timing of Christ's return often hinges on interpretations of key New Testament passages. While many futurist perspectives posit a distant future coming of Christ, a consistent hermeneutic of allowing Scripture to interpret Scripture while acknowledging audience relevance, how the original audience understood Jesus' message, argues that the overwhelming testimony of the New Testament, particularly the direct words of Jesus, points to a fulfillment of his only prophesied coming return within the first century. Jesus unequivocally declared in each account of the Olivet Discourse, Matthew 24:34, Mark 13:30, and Luke 21:32, that, "Assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place." This foundational statement, coupled with numerous other time indicators, such as Matthew 16:27-28, establishes the first century as the definitive time frame for the events leading up to and including his only prophesied coming. Therefore, any scripture cited to argue for a future return beyond the first century must be re-examined through this lens. The following commonly cited passages, often presented by futurists as evidence for a yet future second coming, can in fact be entirely and robustly explained within Jesus' this generation framework, signifying events that unfolded during the first century and culminated in the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD and the full establishment of the New Covenant age. Matthew 24:6-7, Luke 21:9, and Mark 13:7, and Revelation 6:4, all foretell the beginning of birth pangs, of wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, famines, and earthquakes. Futurists presuppose that these passages describe global conflicts, natural disasters, and widespread turmoil that must occur in a distant future, leading up to a physical end-of-the-world return of Christ. I say not so. Jesus explicitly states these are the beginning of birth pains, not the end itself. The first century, particularly the decades leading up to 70 AD, was characterized by immense political and social unrest within the Roman Empire and Judea. The Roman Empire experienced a period of civil wars. For example, the Year of the Four Emperors in 69 AD, and numerous conflicts on its borders. Now, I'm preparing an explanatory video about the Year of Four Emperors, and I'll publish that shortly. Judea itself was a hotbed of rebellion and factionalism, leading directly to the Jewish-Roman War in 66 to 70 AD. Josephus's historical accounts confirm numerous skirmishes, uprisings, and widespread violence. There were famines. Acts 11:28 records a significant famine during the reign of Claudius, directly impacting Judea and the early church. Roman historical records also attest to other regional famines. And of earthquakes, historians like Tacitus and Seneca record numerous significant earthquakes across the Roman Empire in the first century, including in Asia Minor and Pompeii. Revelation 6:4, the fiery red horse. This symbolic language aligns perfectly with the widespread bloodshed, civil strife, and military conflicts prevalent throughout the Roman world and Judea in the lead up to 70 AD. It depicts the removal of peace, a common consequence of these first century turbulences. These events were not unique to the first century, but their intensity and direct proximity to the unfolding of God's judgment on Jerusalem marked them as the specific signs Jesus referred to as preceding the end of the Old Covenant age. In Luke 21:25, Matthew 24:29, and Mark 13:24-35, these feature the apocalyptic signs of the sun being darkened, the moon refusing to give its light, and the stars falling from heaven, and the powers of the heavens being shaken. Futurists presuppose these signs describe literal physical alterations to the cosmos, the sun literally darkening, the moon turning to blood, and the stars falling from the sky, indicating the literal end of the physical universe. I say not so. This interpretation fails to account for the consistent use of such symbolic apocalyptic language in the Old Testament prophetic literature, where it is always symbolic of the downfall of nations, kings, and established powers, not the literal destruction of the universe. In Isaiah 13:10, the judgment of Babylon; Isaiah 34:4, a judgment on Edom; Ezekiel 32:7 and 8, a judgment on Egypt, all use identical cosmic imagery to describe profound political and national collapse. For clarity, here's Isaiah 13:9 and 10, quote, "Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he will destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of the heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine." The darkening of the sun and moon signifies the extinguishing of a nation's glory and leadership. The falling of stars represents the demise of prominent figures or institutions. This imagery perfectly describes the collapse of the Jewish nation, its religious system, and the temple in 70 AD. The established order, which had once shone brightly as God's chosen people, was darkened and shaken by divine judgment. In Acts 2:19, which quoted Joel 2:28-32, Peter explicitly states that the outpouring of the Spirit at Pentecost, a first-century event, inaugurated the last days and would be accompanied by wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke, end quote. This passage already interpreted these cosmic signs as occurring in the first century and being connected to the coming of the Spirit and the impending great and glorious day of the Lord, the day of judgment on Jerusalem. Blood and fire and billows of smoke directly allude to the siege and burning of Jerusalem. To interpret these passages literally in the New Testament while acknowledging their symbolic use in the Old Testament creates an unnecessary hermeneutical inconsistency. When applied to the first century, they powerfully depict the catastrophic end of the Old Covenant order. Now, I have more to present, but I think it is wise to break the presentation into 2 or 3 parts to be determined. So I'll end here. Please post your comments and questions, and please share with friends and family, pastors, elders, deacons, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you are a subscriber, please know that I appreciate you. God bless.